Hi, and welcome to Crafts with Ash DIY and Decor. My name's Ashley, and today I am bringing you 3 brand new Mother's Day DIYs. Now, these are going to cover all bases, so if you're going to make DIYs for your own mom, or maybe a grandma, or a special friend, or an aunt, you're going to love all these ideas. Plus, I incorporated different styles as well, so you can switch up the colors and the look so it fits the taste of the special woman in your life. First, if you haven't done so already, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell, and in the drop-down menu, hit all so you're notified about all notifications. I upload a bunch of times a month, and coming into the summer, I am chomping at the bit to get outside in my back patio, front porch, the gazebo area, and the pool area to get it all ready for summer. So, if any of that sounds fun to you, then definitely subscribe and hit those notifications so you know when to tune in. All right, now it's time to jump into these DIYs. Now, the first 3 DIYs are brand new this year, but then I also incorporated 3 DIYs at the end of this video that came from a couple years ago when my channel was itty bitty, so they weren't seen by a lot of people. So I thought I'd throw these in so you can get even more inspiration. Now let's craft. For this first DIY, I am going to use one of these cutting boards from the Dollar Tree. If you don't have this cutting board, you can use any cutting board. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is actually paint this center section with some ivory chalk paint because I am going to be covering it, but I knew that if I didn't paint it, all the words and the image and everything will show through. So I'm going to give this 2 really good coats. Now, you're going to see here that originally I painted over those little studs there, but I'm actually going to be taking those out. But first, I'm going to take this really pretty tissue paper that I also got from the Dollar Tree, and going section by section, I'm going to Mod Podge it on. So what I did was put Mod Podge on the top half of that surface. I went ahead and smoothed it out. And then I'm going to lift it up and put Mod Podge on the bottom half and press on my tissue paper and smooth it out. It just helps if you do it in sections because, I mean, I did get a little wrinkling, but it prevented a ton of wrinkling and bubbling. So I prefer to do that. Now, this is when I realized, shoot, I really should have popped those things out. So you are going to see me use my little Cricut tool there to go ahead and pop it out. It was easy. You just gotta use a little pressure and pop them out. But I did keep them close because I did end up putting them back in after this step. So once I had all my tissue pushed down, I went ahead and cut it all down, and then I went ahead and smoothed it out the best I could. And next I'm going to take some Mod Podge and I'm going to Mod Podge over the top so that way it becomes a hard surface and it makes it seem like that this tissue paper was part of this cutting board all along. So real quick, I want to take this opportunity to welcome you to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, thank you so much for choosing to stop by. Like I said, my name's Ashley. I am a wife and a mom of 2, a 6-month-old and almost 6-year-old. If you love all things DIY, home decor, home decorating, room makeovers, room organization, room refreshers on a budget, then this is definitely the channel for you. So like I said earlier, hit that subscribe button. And hey, if you love what you see today, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up because it truly helps my channel to grow and I'd appreciate it so much. If this is your first time here, mention that in the comments so I can give you a proper welcome. And if you're returning, you are awesome. Thank you so much for coming back and I truly hope you love what you see.
Holding on through the night, 'cause I promise you
So after I got those little things pulled up, I went ahead and took my sanding block and I'm sanding in the down direction to go ahead and get all the excess tissue paper off. And this worked perfectly. It gave it a nice clean cut. And I love doing this. It was so much easier than trying to get scissors in there and try to cut it off. So definitely recommend sanding this all down. Next, I'm going to take those little pins and I'm just simply going to pop them back in. And I just used the same hole that it came out of in the first place. I could see it a little bit through the tissue paper, so I just popped them back in.
Darling, you've got to keep holding on.
So what I am making here is a recipe card holder, and this is actually going to be for my mother-in-law. And she loves to cook and she loves to bake. So I am going to hot glue a clothespin to the top, and then my kids and all of her grandkids call her Mima. So I cut this out from my Cricut and it just says Mima's Kitchen, and I thought that this would be super cute because she can use it as a decor piece, but it's also functional as well. So I just went ahead and scraped that on. I never know what the verbiage is for that. And then I'm just going to peel the transfer tape off, and that's it to this. Now, you could add a bow, you could add some twine to the top. I just wanted to keep it very simple because that's more her taste and that's more what she likes. So after this was down, that was it. That completed this super cute cutting board.
There'll be new ways. This is not the end.
For the next DIY, I'm going to go ahead and use this wood blank palette sign that I actually got from the Target dollar spot, I believe last year. Now, I want to keep the frame around it in the natural wood that it is. So I went ahead and taped it off with some painter's tape, and now I'm going to give the inside a coat of ivory chalk paint. Now, if some of that wood shows through, I'm okay with that. I'm giving it kind of I'm not really dry brushing. I'm doing more than that, but I'm not worried if it's not completely covered, but I am trying to stay clear of those gaps in between because I didn't want any paint to get in the gaps. So I'm just going to give this one good coat. After that, I'm going to peel off the painter's tape. Now you can see that that the paint on the inside did not go all the way to the side. So I did go in and touch that up with a really small paintbrush. That way it looked nice and painted.
Promise you this. If you try.
While that dried, I went ahead and got this puzzle that I got from the Dollar Tree. Now, this puzzle has 48 pieces in it, and I found that these pieces were the perfect size. So I was thinking, okay, how can I do this? How can I pick pieces? Because I do need the pieces to actually go together, and I needed 8 pieces. So I was like, well, I might as well put a chunk of it together. So that's exactly what I did. So I put a portion of it together, and then I kind of went through and figured it out what I needed. I needed 2 on top, 4 in the middle, and 2 on the bottom. I'm making this for my mom, and I'm going to put all of our names on, but I thought I would do like mom and dad on top, and then me and my sister, and then our spouses, and then my 2 girls at the bottom. So what I'm doing here is just making sure that all of my pieces are correct, and I found like the portion that I think is going to fit best. Now, these pieces kept kind of wanting to come off, so I just took a very, very small amount of hot glue and just kind of lightly glued these pieces together just so it was easier for me to paint. And I did not put a lot because obviously, when hot glue dries, it kind of thickens a little bit and there'd be a gap, and I didn't want that. So you just want a little tiny bit. You can even, and I didn't think of this till after, you can even flip it to the back, like the image side, and tape it all down, tape it all together. That way, it would still be together and it wouldn't move, but I didn't think of it till after. So I just went ahead and used hot glue, and you know what, it worked out just fine. So after that, what I wanted to do, because the base of that wood piece that I had just painted is ivory, I wanted these to be kind of dark and look like wood. So all I'm going to do is faux stain these. And to do that, I'm just going to take a baby wipe and I'm going to dip it in some Waverly Antique Wax, and then I am just going to wipe that all over these puzzle pieces. And that was it. I only did this once, and I did make sure that this got full coverage. That way it looked like wood, but it really did look like wood. I really liked how this came out.
There's a new day wash away the pain. There's a new day to take away your sorrow.
Now, once those puzzle pieces dried, I went ahead and cut out all of our names on the Cricut. And like I said, I arranged them so I said Mom and Dad on top, and then Ashley and Danielle, which is me and my sister. And then next to our names were our spouses, and then at the bottom are Amelia and Charlotte. Those are the only two grandkids as of right now. So, I put them at the bottom. So I just went ahead and added on all of our names. Now you can kind of see that it's hard to see the different puzzle pieces and the lines and stuff. So I decided to take a black permanent marker and outline all of the lines in the puzzle. Also, don't worry, I know that the name Charlotte is missing some letters. I do go back and fix that. No worries there. I don't know where they went. Now, this piece I do want to mention was inspired by something I saw on Pinterest. Actually, a lot of these DIYs were, and I just kind of gave it my own touch and personalized it to my mom's taste and into the lady's taste that I'm giving them to for all of these. So after this piece was completely done and the names were on, I went ahead and hot glued this puzzle piece to the bottom of the frame.
I will always think of you and me. Darling, you've got to keep holding on.
Next, I'm going to take this picture frame that I also got from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to take out the galvanized piece and the stand because we aren't going to use it, and all I want to be left with is the frame itself. I'm also going to go ahead and pop off the tabs on there because I am just going to simply hot glue this to the top of the frame. Now, this frame size is a 3.5 by 5, I believe. And it's because the 4x6 was a little too big, so it wasn't going to fit. But this fit perfectly. Now, there was no glass in the frame because it had the galvanized, so I am just going to hot glue this as it is. Now, my thinking was, okay, how is she going to be able to switch out the picture if I hot glue a picture, or if I put the picture in the frame and hot glue it down? You can't change it out. So what I decided to do was actually take a clothespin, a really small clothespin, and just hot glue it to the top of the frame. And then that way she can just clip a photo there and it still looks cute. It still looks high end, but then she can also switch it out when it's time. So after that clothespin was on, this DIY is complete. I love that it's personalized. It has all our names, and I think my mom will love it too.
Come again tomorrow. There's a new day to wash away the pain.
For this next new DIY, I'm going to take this watering can that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I am going to spray paint it with some white spray paint. Now, we're going to come back to that in just a little bit. But for now, I'm going to take these wooden flowers that I believe got in like a big pack from the Dollar Tree at one point or another. And on one of them, I'm going to paint them in ballet slipper paint. Another one I'm going to paint in agave. And then this one, I didn't catch the name, but it's just some kind of light purple or lavender. And you can see that two of them are the same and one of them is not. So once those were completely dry, I am going to take the bottom of a brush, I'm going to dip it in some ivory paint, and I am just going to add some polka dots going around the perimeter of all three of these flowers. I just wanted to add like a little detail to it because I just thought that they were kind of boring. So I just thought that polka dots is cute and fun.
There's a new day to leave behind your trouble.
So now I'm going to take these mini craft sticks and I'm going to paint each one with some green paint. This piece right here, this DIY is going to be more fun and colorful. This is going to be for my grandma, which is my kid's great grandma, and I think she's going to love it. Next, I cut out the names of the great-grandkids on my Cricut. So we have Amelia, we have Giovanni, and we have Charlotte. So I'm going to go ahead and put one name on each of the flowers.
holding on through the night.
Now, going back to the watering can, I'm going to go ahead and just take some regular yellow acrylic paint, and I'm going to give this whole can, except for the top spout, like the part where the water actually comes out of, with 2 coats of this yellow paint.
Give up the fight.
Now, my kids and all the great-grandkids call my grandma Mamu, so I went ahead and cut this out as well. It says Mamu's Garden, and I thought this was so fun, and I'm just going to go ahead and put this on the front of my watering can.
There's a new day waiting round the
Next, I'm going to fill the bottom of the watering can with some floral foam. I did have to cut it down and kind of piece it together in there. And then you will see that it is wobbly. So eventually I do take the top part off and hot glue it down to the bottom. But I just needed some filler in there. Plus, we're going to go ahead and put the flowers on the sticks. So I needed somewhere to stick those sticks.
There's a new day that will come again tomorrow.
Next, I'm going to take the popsicle sticks and I'm going to hot glue the flowers on, and then I'm going to pop them inside of the watering can. Now, I did do different levels, and the Charlotte one I had a little lower. The Giovanni was like middle, and Amelia was a little higher than all those because that's their age range anyways, or like age order. Amelia is the oldest, so I just thought it would be cute to do it like that. And then also the Charlotte one is the flower that's different, so that one's in the middle of these two that are the same. You'll see. I don't know, that was just my thinking on all that, my thought process. So once I had the Giovanni one in, I went ahead and hot glued the sticks to the other 2 and stuck those in my little watering can as well. Now you can see that it is still wobbly even after I added the hot glue, but next you're going to see that I add this green raffia, and I'm basically just going to stuff it in, and this helped stabilize the foam as well. I was going to do like reindeer moss or like that elixir or whatever it is, but oh my gosh, that would have been so messy. I would have been so mad if someone gave me that because it is so messy. And it's kind of smelly. So I thought that this was more like fun and whimsical anyways. So I'm just kind of arranging it how I like. And then I just kind of like felt like it needed just a little more pop of color. So all I'm going to do is simply add a little twine orange bow to the side, and I think that that was just enough. I have to say, I think this was my favorite of them all. Now, after this one are the ones from a couple years ago, so definitely keep watching because you are going to want to catch those. And like I said, you're going to see a lot of different styles that you can switch up for each woman. So say you want to make this for, a great grandma, but they're not that colorful, they don't like color, then you can make that watering can galvanized and just make the flowers white. You can really switch it up. But anyways, here is the final look of my watering can, and I love how it came out.
Up the fight, if only just for a bit. There's a new day. It is waiting.
For this next DIY, I'm going to be using this box wood sign from the Dollar Tree. Now, this one came from Easter, but they have these all year round. And then I picked up this super cute Mother's Day card. Now, this is the one that's in the plastic, so it was not where all the cards are. It was like in its own little display. But I took it out of the plastic, and then I ripped the middle section out and then cut the card in half, so I was only left with the front of the card. Now, I didn't mention this before, but I did go ahead and sand off the glitter that was on the front of that sign too. Next, they have this little picket fence on there, and it is just held on by little 3D stickers. So I went ahead and popped that off. Now keep it close. We will use that again. But first, I went ahead and gave this entire sign one coat of Waverly chalk paint in white. I did the front, although you don't have to paint the entire front because we're going to be covering it, but just around the edges. And then I also painted the sides as well. Next, I went ahead and I hot glued my card in the middle of the sign. Now, the width is not big enough. Like you can see that there's the white part of the box sticking out, and then the card is actually too long. So what I did was I just figured out where the center was, and then I folded it at the top and folded it at the bottom, and then I cut off the rest. Now, at first I started using my scissors, and then I realized it was much simpler to get that little craft knife again and just use that. Then I believe I also sanded down at the top and the bottom just to make it that nice clean cut. Next, I went ahead and hot glued that little picket fence back on. Now, the reason why I took it off was because I had to cut the bottom of the card off. So this time when I glued it, the picket fence was just going to be a little higher up on the card. Next, I decided I was going to distress it. Now, again, if the person you're giving it to does not like that distressed look, you don't have to do this. But I took my Waverly Antique Wax and that makeup sponge and just lightly brushed over the edges. And then I also hit the little picket fence too. And I really love the look that gave. So next I took these little circular puff stickers that came from the Crafter's Square, and I went ahead and put them on all of the sides except for the bottom. Now, I'm not measuring here. I just kind of eyeballed it and just laid them out as evenly as I could in the middle of each of the sides. After they were all down and secure, I went ahead and painted over them with that white Waverly chalk paint. Now, I did not feel the need to hot glue these down because they are stickers, so they were actually pretty strong and they haven't come off yet. So I just went ahead and just used the sticker itself. So then, like I said, I painted over it. Now you want to make sure to paint around the entire circle sticker. That way you don't really see any of the color poking through. And I did this on all three sides. After that dried, I took my Waverly Antique Wax and I brushed it over the top, and the look and the texture that that gave was so neat. I really loved that little detail. Now this sign came with a hanger on the back, and I chose to leave it on because it could either be hung or it could sit up, but I absolutely love how this came out. It has bright colors, yet it is rustic, and I just feel it is perfect for Mother's Day. What do you think? For my next DIY, I started off with this little wooden plaque that I got in the Crafter's Square. I went ahead and cut off the line, and then I took a piece of scrapbook paper, flipped it over, and then rather than trying to trace around the shape, I just cut off a rectangle to fit the shape. And then I took some Mod Podge and put some of that on the top of this wood plaque. Then I went ahead and just pushed down my scrapbook paper right on top. Once my scrapbook paper was pushed on, I took my sand block and I started to sand the edges down to give it that nice clean cut. Then I realized that I had a little too much excess paper, so I used my scissors to cut around it and then went back with my sanding block and really sanded the edges. That way it gave it that nice clean cut and made it look like the paper is actually part of the wood. You can see I have a little helper off to the side there. She kept stealing all of my stuff. And this is also the case of the missing scissors. Those scissors right there, I have no idea what happened to those after this project. They just up and disappeared. I'll keep you posted on that. Now, to get in the harder to sand places, I took an actual nail file and used that in those spaces, and it really worked out really well. Now, as I was sanding, a little bit of the paper ripped off on the edges, but I wanted to show you because I really love that look. I am such a rustic girl and I love it so much. After all my sanding was done, I took some Mod Podge and just painted over the top to secure my paper. Next, I took my Waverly Antique Wax and of course I stained the edges, so the wood around the paper, and then I hit the top of it too, just to kind of make it all blend in and give it that rustic look. Next, I grabbed one of these crates that I got from the Dollar Tree, and by using a baby wipe, I dipped it into my Waverly Antique Wax and used it as a stain to stain this crate, and I stained the entire thing except for the bottom. You also want to make sure to get into the little holes or the handles on the sides as well. After that crate was dry, I took a little piece of that scrapbook paper again and then just carefully ripped off some of the big pink flowers and the smaller flowers. I thought that this would be really cool because it would look like the paper had ripped on the bottom and it was just so old, so it just kind of deteriorated. So I just ripped off a bunch of the little pieces, and then once I had all of the pieces I wanted, I put a layer of Mod Podge on the crate and then put the flowers on top, and I thought this created such a neat look. Then I went ahead and put some Mod Podge on the top of the flowers. That way it protected them and kept them in place. Once my Mod Podge was dry, I took that makeup sponge with the Waverly Antique Wax and I just kind of brushed it around the edges of the paper. That way you can't see like the ripped white part of the paper, if that makes sense. But I blended it all in and I absolutely love how that came out. And then I did end up adding one more little piece in the corner. So I just did the same thing. I just Mod Podged it on and then I used my Waverly Wax to go ahead and blend that in as well. Now, because these are glued down on a crate, I wanted to create the spaces that would naturally be in the crate again. So I went ahead and I used a couple different methods here, but I used the craft knife at first but that was too sharp because I didn't want to rip the paper off. I just wanted to break it apart so that way you can see the little slice of the crate in there. Then I used a craft stick to go ahead and stick it in there too, and that seemed to work a little better. So as you can see, I keep going back and forth between the knife and the craft stick. You just have to be really careful, go really slow, and be patient, and eventually it'll look like what it's supposed to look like. And then I tried to get my little sanding tools in there, but it didn't work. Some sandpaper probably would have been better. I just didn't have any, but I just kind of worked with it, and then I threw some Mod Podge on top of it again just to secure it. Now, to put my sign on the crate, I wanted the sign to be a little higher than the crate. So I took 2 craft sticks and I started off by staining them first, and then I went ahead and hot glued them down to the very bottom of the sign. And then I put it into the crate, put the craft sticks into the crate and kind of measured them and cut off whatever I needed. And then I hot glued the sticks down into the inside of the crate, which you'll see here in 1 minute. When I glued this down, I made sure that the bottom of the sign was touching the top of the crate. Sorry about my head. Now, I kind of felt like the front was missing something, it was just a little too dull. So I just took some ivory chalk paint and my favorite distressing brush, and I just distressed the top of the crate and the sides. And I really do think that this added some dimension and just kind of brought it to life a little bit more. It's funny what a little bit of paint can do. Next, I took some floral foam and I cut it down so that I had foam in the entire box. And then I just took a variety of different flowers and florals and greenery and just made a little flower arrangement in my little crate. Now, I am not very good at making flower arrangements, to be completely honest, so I just went ahead and sped through this because I really was not going to explain how I did this, but you can kind of just watch because I just I don't know, I just throw them all in there and then fix them, but it's one of those things that every time I look at it, I go adjust something or move something, so you can just see what I'm doing here. But basically, I just put the flowers wherever I saw fit, but I kind of wanted to leave the center of the sign a little plain. So you can see that most of the flowers are kind of to the sides. After I had all my flowers in, I went ahead and hot glued some Spanish moss down to cover the foam. And then I just got some random greenery pieces and I just filled in some spots. Now, like I said, I did try to keep the center of the sign kind of free from the flowers, and in a minute you're gonna see why. After that, I took another clothespin, and like I said, mine were already painted white from another DIY, so I just took some Waverly Antique Wax and I brushed it over, and then I went ahead and I hot glued the clothespin to the top of my sign, and now you have a really cute picture holder floral arrangement, and I think this is so cute. I'm actually going to give this one to my mother-in-law, and that way she can put it in her living room, but I love how this came out. What do you think? For my last DIY gift idea, I thought I would make a gnome. Now, shockingly, this is the first time I've ever made one or attempted this. So it was a lot of fun to make, but it was definitely a learning experience. So the first thing I did was I got an old sock and then I filled it with rice. Now, I found it easier to fill a little vase with rice and then flip the sock over the vase and then just pour it in. And I actually did this twice. So I filled it with 2 vasefuls of rice. And then I went ahead and took an elastic band and I tied it off and cut off the excess on top. Next, I went ahead and added some hot glue to hot glue the little part of the sock up top down. Now, you want to be careful. You don't want to touch your elastic band because the hot glue will break it. Next, I took this 2-pack of really cute fuzzy socks that I actually already had, and I decided I wanted the lavender, the lighter purple sock, to be the body. So I just cut off right below the heel and then just stuck my black sock inside of the lavender sock. And then I kind of just formed it to see how I want it to look. Next, I went ahead and took the dark purple polka dot sock, and I'm going to use that as my hat. So I just simply put that over the top of my gnome. Now, I was going to go ahead and work with the hat, but I decided to work on the face first. So next, I took a 20 millimeter bead, and that's what I'm going to use as my nose. So I took some white Waverly chalk paint and I just gave my bead a coat of that. Now, at first I started painting it with my fingers and I'm like, duh, take a skewer and stick it on there. And it was so much easier. So then after it dried, I went ahead and hot glued my hot bead a little under the hat. That way the top of the hat would hide the nose just a little bit. Next, I went ahead and took these pieces of a mop that I had that I used in another DIY, and you can find this mop in the cleaning section where all the brooms and plungers and things are. And I found that it was best to work in sections with this. So what I did was I put a little bead of hot glue, and I did around the nose first because I wanted to get that covered. But I put a little bead of hot glue, and then I put some strands of this mop down, and I made sure that it was completely secure and adhered. And then I went ahead and cut off the bottoms right where the end of the sock was. Next, I kind of went through and just unbraided all of those strands of the mop, and then that way it adds a little bit more hair for the beard. And I did this going around the front half of my gnome. After all my hair was glued down, I took the top part of that hat and I put it over the top pieces of the mop and a little bit over the nose, and then I went ahead and hot glued it down. Next, I gave my little gnome a haircut so his beard was all even at the bottom. Then it was time to work on the hat. So what I did was cut off the bottom where it was attached, and then I took another one of those elastic bands and just kind of went halfway on the hat and rubber banded it together. And then I kind of cut slits at the bottom of the hat. That way it just adds just a little bit of fun. Next, I went ahead and hot glued the hat down to the side, but I made sure that the top of it was bumping up just a little bit. Now, remember what I said earlier? Be careful when you use hot glue with an elastic band because it can break, and mine sure did. So next, I took some of this purple and white twine that I got from the Dollar Tree and used that instead to tie it around, and then I just did the same thing and hot glued it down to the side of my gnome. Next, I took these little garden chalkboard signs and I took my chalk marker and wrote "I Heart Mom." Now, before I glued my sign on, I decided I wanted to make some arms. So I took the other part of the sock that I didn't use, the lavender sock, and I cut off a strip that I felt would be long enough for an arm. So I kind of put it up to the gnome and measured it. Next, I took 2 pieces of floral wire and I put one of the pieces of wire in between the little strip that I had cut and just sandwiched the wire in that little piece of fabric and then hot glued it all together. I did that for 2 of my arms. Next, I went ahead and took my arms and I hot glued them to the side of my gnome underneath the hair on either side. And then I bent the arm so it came around to the front. Next, I took some hot glue and I hot glued my sign in the front of my gnome underneath his little hands. Now, I did cut off the bottom of that stick because it was kind of pointy and I made it just a little bit shorter, but I just made sure to hot glue his hands down on top of the sign. Now, I'm so sorry I lost footage to this last part, but I did end up putting a little bit of flowers in front where the sign is and then around the top of his hat where the elastic is too, and I thought that that added the perfect touch to our little Mother's Day gnome. What do you think? I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you got a lot of inspiration and ideas on fun DIYs you can make for that special lady in your life this Mother's Day. If you loved this video, go ahead and click this one right here because I bet you'll love that one too. Don't forget to click my photo to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up if you loved what you saw. Well, until I see you again, I'll craft with you soon. Bye!